Welcome to Pollitt-tics, where we dissect the latest political news with a twist. From fiery debates to groundbreaking policies, we leave no stone unturned. Join us as we navigate the complex world of politics with wit, wisdom, and a touch of humor. Stay tuned for a roller coaster ride of insights and opinions that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Get ready to dive deep into the heart of the political storm, right here on Pollitt-tics.
Hello, welcome everybody. It is August 11th, 2024. My name is Greg Pollitt. I am your host of the Pollitt-tics podcast. We're going to talk everything political with my own viewpoints, insights, opinions, give you my take on what's happening in the world and what's about to happen. We live right now in a very dangerous time in the United States of America, a time that no one in our history has seen in modern times. We're on a precipice of a lot of very dangerous things happening. We're just around 80 some days out from the presidential election with Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, the Democrat nominees taking on former President Donald Trump and his new vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio. The last pretty much decade has been a very challenging time. In 2016, Donald Trump announced that he was running for president of the United States. I remember seeing the video of him coming down the escalator, which we've all seen, him and Melania, and somehow The Simpsons several years before. In that video, there was a lot of people that said he would never become the nominee. He would never become president of the United States. They didn't even give him a chance. You had the liberal media all supporting Hillary Clinton. A lot of rhino Republicans doing the same thing, trying everything they possibly could out of jealousy, probably many other reasons we're unaware of, to prevent Donald Trump from becoming the nominee and elected as the 45th president. He defied those odds. Even with the media against him, he was elected president of the United States. But it wasn't without controversy. President Trump was spied on by the intelligence community, the FBI, CIA, NSA, all conspiring to fake dossier, fraudulent reasons, created a Russia collusion hoax. You had Page and Strzok coming up with their own default plan to make sure that Donald Trump was not elected president. And if he was, there was an insurance plan put in place. Now, what does that insurance plan mean? We're still finding that out. It's led to the Mueller report, investigation that took 3 years into Donald Trump's presidency to ultimately be proven it was all a bunch of lies. January 6th was a wonderful day. And what I mean by wonderful is millions of people showed up in Washington, D.C. to proudly and patriotically protest what we all saw was a stolen election. Throughout the election in 2020, there was numerous polling locations that were boarded up that kicked pollsters out. Trump was leading in several states where the counts were stopped after midnight or 2 a.m. and then hundreds of thousands of votes were dumped straight for Joe Biden. Mayor Giuliani and a team of lawyers presented numerous amounts of evidence to several state houses, but judges didn't want to get involved. So on January 6th, everyone came to protest. We've seen the videos. We know it was an inside job. The doors were let open. Capitol Police invited people inside the Capitol. And while many were there and just walked through the Capitol peacefully, we also saw the murder of Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed individual walking in the Capitol, which is fully legal to do. It is a public building. You are allowed to walk inside the Capitol. So, lots of things happened that shouldn't have happened during this time. You can like it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But these are the things that happen. Which brings us over the last 3.5 years. We've been under the presidential authority of one Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris as the president and vice president. And during this time, we have seen many bad things happen. We saw Vladimir Putin and his army invade Ukraine. We saw the Taliban assault and murder 13 U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan during the withdrawal. Numerous others injured, and reigning tyranny over the ones that Joe Biden left behind, along with $85 billion worth of state-of-the-art military equipment. And even if that military equipment was outdated by our standards, you're giving rocket launchers to cavemen. You are giving them 21st century technology to people who are not capable of operating this type of equipment, who were basically militarily living in the Stone Age in comparison, and suddenly they're on equal playing field. Now, some of that equipment's been sold on the black market. Some of it is still being used in Afghanistan. A lot of it has been given to China and Russia, rumored to back engineer to help increase their technological advances, to be more of a force against the Western nations, the United States of America, in the event of a war. A lot of things have continued to happen during this time here at home. We saw the stimulus package that many of us agreed that was needed during Trump and at the beginning of Obama's presidency. But there was a lot of things that it was used illegally for. There's a lot of fraud involved. That's why a lot of Republicans were against the second stimulus package, because not all the money had been sent out from the first. They were investigating fraud. And here we are today. Now over $36 trillion in debt. Some of that fault belongs to Trump. Some of that majority belongs to Biden. It was an unprecedented situation, so I can't be too harsh on Joe Biden about that. But our nation is severely in economic decline. And what I can hold Biden and Kamala account to is the billions and billions and billions of dollars that we are sending to Ukraine. Ukraine never would have happened if President Trump was still in office, or, for the matter of fact, any president that had a backbone to lead the world and show them that America is not to be trifled with. America First, the Make America Great Again movement that Donald Trump represents, is not just something he pulled out of his ass one day. The Make America Great Again movement is something that every man and woman on every street of every city, of every county, of every state in this union has been screaming to the top of their lungs for years. Our government has left us behind. They don't care about you, your neighbor, me. The politicians in Washington, D.C. have lived way above their means. They would rather send money overseas to somebody to fund a war than to help a homeless veteran on the streets or to help someone get off the addiction to narcotics, fentanyl, and many other drugs and things that plague our streets right here at home. It's a challenge to be a leader. But the one thing that is the best quality of any leader is to admit when you are wrong, to be adaptable, to help make things better for the people that you lead. I don't remember Joe Biden or Kamala Harris being elected to protect the people of Afghanistan or to protect the people in Ukraine, which is a tragedy. Don't get me wrong. That is very terrible things that are happening in Ukraine. Nor have they been elected to help the people of Gaza. Another tragedy. There are innocent people there caught in a religious war. Most people don't want to call it that, but that's exactly what it is. It is a religious war of many radicals of the Islamic faith wanting to destroy Israel, Christianity, Judaism, anything that is not Islamic. And no, not every Muslim believes that. Just like not every Mormon believes in having multiple wives and all the things of religious past. Religion is one thing that has changed over the years. God has told us to follow his commandments and also follow the laws of the land. So when things have changed in many religions due to culture, religions have changed for the better. Many people want to talk about slavery and how only certain races were affected by slavery, which, if you're allowed to by many of your liberal teachers, universities, and your government, can find a history book, a real history book, you'll see that all races have been victims of slavery. White, black, brown, makes no difference. Black men have sold white men have sold black men, Irishmen, Asians. It's been a victimology across the board of all races and accosted by all races. That's what history will teach you. But let's fast forward to today. Today, slavery is probably more detrimental to society than it ever has been in history. And while it's not your typical man with a whip beating someone in a field, slavery has evolved into a lower pit of hell into human trafficking and sex trafficking. Just this administration in the United States right now under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have reportedly lost contact with at least 150,000 children. Maybe more, maybe less. But that number is children that were stopped at the border and released to people they not know into the United States. And sadly, the United States is one of the largest hubs for sexual exploitation of women and children. There's a great movie called The Sound of Freedom. If you haven't seen it, you should. And if that movie doesn't inspire you to want to help people in that situation, you've got a lot more problems in your head than worrying about this upcoming presidential election. It's not just the United States, it's a global, worldwide phenomenon that is evil and must be stopped. But you have a vice presidential nominee in Tim Walz who has changed language in Minnesota to allow pedophilia to be okay. That is not okay. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're Mexican, African American, Caucasian, Irish, Russian, Egyptian. That is evil, no matter what skin color you wear. That's just a little intro into things for today. Some of the viewpoints of what's going on inside the United States in the upcoming presidential election. I mentioned the immigrant children that have been released to unknowns, but there are hundreds of thousands and millions that have illegally been allowed to enter this country by the policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Their policy was an open border. There was many news clippings, media outlets reporting, showing video of Joe Biden saying, "Come to the border. Come one, come all." Now, in recent estimates, there's been floated numbers between 15 and 20 million people have illegally been allowed to enter into the United States over the last 3 years. That is astonishing. That number alone is more than population of several U.S. states. That's insane. How could this be allowed? How can we allow this to happen? America has a heart of gold. Everyone wants to help everyone who is in need, save them from danger, put food on their plate. But how can we do that if we can't take care of ourselves here at home? How can we invite strangers into our home when we don't have food for our kids, our veterans? Inflation is destroying our economy, killing jobs, making everything unaffordable, all from policies under the Biden-Harris administration. But Kamala wants you to vote her in for president. While she's making promises of things to do if elected, she fails to remember she is in office currently as the vice president. She can headline and orchestrate bills to change a lot of these things, to help combat inflation, to help lower gas prices, that'll lower transportation costs, that'll lower production costs, that'll make food affordable for you and I again. But there's another thing that we can't forget along the way. Throughout this last 3.5 years, there's been an unprecedented amount of attacks on our food industry. There have been over 100 and counting food production plant fires, plane crashes into those buildings, selling farmland to China, stopping with supplements to farmers. There's an attack on your country, America. There is an attack from the very soul of our nation. When Tim, the farmer down the road, can't plant his crops or has to plant less, or is forced to take out high interest loans that there's a high unlikelihood he's going to be able to pay back very easily to get out his crops, to put food in the grocery store and on your table. That is a war on every American. White, black, brown, it does not matter. If you are spending more money today at the grocery store than you ever have before in your life to buy simple things, necessities, not living outlandish, not living above your means, but to where bare necessities are almost unaffordable. I don't care what politician it is. That is a personal attack on you, and you should take it personally. This is America. Our founding fathers founded it to be the home of the free, the brightest spot in liberty in the world. So no matter where there is darkness in this nation, around the world, this nation would be the light that everyone would come to. Legally. So we have to hold our government accountable. We have to hold them accountable by elections. And yes, after we saw what happened in the 2020 election, a lot of people are very skeptical of this election. What if it gets tampered with and stolen again? Which is a very real threat, a very real possibility of domestic or foreign interference. So how do we combat that? We have honest people showing up at the polling locations. We have honest people verifying ballots. We have honest American people doing their best to ensure the correct people are elected legally and properly. America, we are at a crossroads. Right now, we've seen unprecedented attacks against Donald Trump over the last 3 years. Well, decade, but the last 3 years of legal lawfare. Our country is falling into tyranny. We are falling into Marxism. These are all things that if you look and research, you will be frightened of. Of course, they have their bright, shiny, sparkly lights of everything's free, everybody is equal, everything is awesome. We've all saw that movie before. If you haven't, you've read the book. 1984, George Orwell. We are in a police state. Alex Jones has been warning that has been coming for the last 20 years. And the last 3 years, it has been proven emphatically with the attacks they have gone after Donald Trump. And if you think that's a simple thing, or one person, whether you like him or not, Trump is not wrong when he's saying he's standing in the way. They're not after him, they're after us. In Roman times, a lot of times they would suspend democracy and appoint one person to fight the war for them against the best warrior of their enemy. Donald Trump was elected our one person. We didn't suspend democracy. We emboldened it. We elected Trump to fight for us, all of us, to be free, to chase the American dream, and they've attacked him every single step of the way. Now you replace Donald Trump with anybody that would have his backbone, stamina, courage to rise up against those things that our Constitution guarantee the protection of the rights given to us by God. They censored you when you said you didn't want to get a vaccine. They censored you when you said this virus is from China. They censored you when you said you wouldn't wear a mask. They kicked you out of stores, restaurants. They made you put your life on hold for tyranny, control, power. And the left is fighting fiercely every second to not relinquish that power. We've had the censorship boards under Homeland Security working with big tech, Twitter before Elon Musk bought it, Facebook, Instagram, all censoring your voice if you said anything to question the official story. That is a police state. If you look on Twitter now and some of the videos that's coming out from the UK right now, they are being overrun by radical Muslims. And not just the last week. It's been an ongoing thing with their open borders where radical Islamists have gotten elected into positions of power in government to change laws and now have police officers knocking on your door if you post anything anti-government or questioning an official story or posting something you don't like. That is tyranny. That is 1984 George Orwellian tyranny. And it's not stopping there. The Muslim Brotherhood's mission for the last 15, 20 years, they've publicly admitted, is to take over the world. To make radical Islam the only government and the only religion on this planet. It's not stopping at the UK. We saw it here during the George Floyd riots, where sadly a man lost his life. I'm opposed to anyone dying by their own addiction or by someone taking their life. I believe life is precious. And out of very bad circumstances, George Floyd lost his. I'm not saying that because I thought he was some hero. He was a human being. He was a man. He made very bad choices, got caught in very bad scenarios, and lost his life. But he's not the only one that has fallen to addiction. There are hundreds of thousands of people every year in the United States that are falling victim to drugs let in by these open borders. These open borders have brought in an estimated 15 to 20 million or more illegal entries into this nation. And you listen to people on the left say, well, there is no illegal person. That's right, there is no illegal person. But when you enter our nation illegally, that makes you a criminal. And that does not matter if you were a priest in the Vatican or if you were a pedophile coming out of Nigeria. You are equally a criminal for breaking a United States law that limits immigration into this nation and how you must follow certain protocols, rules, regulations, and processes to be allowed entry into the United States. That's the law. And if you walk across that border without doing those things, without being invited, you're a criminal. You're an illegal immigrant. Then we have multiple states claiming to be sanctuary cities that are suffering right now. New York City, Denver, Colorado, Chicago, many places that said, bring us your immigrants, we don't care. You get here, you can stay. Housing is horrible. Homeless populations have increased. Many hotels have been overtaken, paid for by your tax dollars and mine. For a criminal to come into this country and be staying high on the hog at the Hilton. Our taxes are paying for their meals. Our taxes are giving them money to be here. All subsidized by the Biden government. And if that doesn't bother you, then sure, I'll take your money. Go ahead, send it to me. I'll happily take it. I'm sure you could afford to take care of me too, right? Or your neighbor. You know, the guy that had the flat tire once and you couldn't take 5 seconds to ask if he was okay or if he needed help. You went on about your day. You got money to help take care of him too, right? You got money, extra money, especially in this economy where you can call AAA for him and foot the bill, right? That's what should bother you. You're paying for food, housing, education, monthly finances, telephones, medical bills, prescription drug costs, abortions, you name it, all from your tax dollars to illegal immigrants. Should really chap your balls if you have balls. If not, the very least, it should upset the fuck out of you. Yeah, you guys see my prescriptions over there since I was talking about drugs. A year ago, I had a heart attack followed up by a quadruple bypass. So those are my prescriptions that I have to take care of every day, twice a day. Sorry, did not mean for those to be seen. So let's forget about those. But that's what those are. We are at a crossroads. I know I've said that a few times so far. The crossroads is challenging right now with those illegal immigrants. We're going to see what's happening in the UK. We're going to see what has happened in France. We're going to see that resurgence of the 2020 George Floyd riots right here. Because if they allow President Trump to win the election properly, either way, we're going to see riots. If President Trump is defeated, the left are going to start riots and say it's more people like on January 6th, unhappy with the election results. If they do allow President Trump to legally take office if he wins the election, they're going to start riots saying that he stole the election. In fact, you have Representative Raskins making a very public statement that's all over the internet of how they're already refusing to certify the election if Trump is elected. How is that not treason? How is that not high crimes and misdemeanors and conspiracy for an insurrection against the United States of America? Overthrowing the will of the people because you don't like him. Now they're trying to say that this Article 3 of 14th Amendment is their golden ticket. You forget one thing, Raskin, you old boy. That states that President Trump or anyone it's used upon would have had to been convicted of an insurrection. You guys had your chance. You impeached the man twice. Never convicted of an insurrection. And the only people that could do that is the United States Senate through an impeachment process. You guys failed to do so. So, that's not going to work for you. Which means, if you do attempt that, that is treason. That is an insurrection. That is punishable by the military. That is punishable by very strict laws that I think you might want to reconsider when that day comes. Because let's face it right now, Donald John Trump and J.D. Vance are going to be elected as your next president and vice president of the United States. The momentum has been building since 2016 when Donald Trump announced his run for the United States presidency. The forgotten man and woman were finally being heard. Healthcare is too expensive. My medications are too expensive. My food, my gas, my housing is too expensive. We need to stop sending jobs overseas. We need to make products here in America We need to create jobs here in America. We need to create and manufacture drugs, pharmaceuticals here in America. All these things Donald Trump listened to, heard the outcry, and was elected. He has kept more political promises than just about any other candidate or president ever. Some things he didn't get to, which is kind of hard when you're fought by both parties, left and right, tooth and nail, all the way, the entire time, claiming you're a Russian asset, that you like to get peed on in videotapes, that you're selling your soul to China. All lies, all proven lies. But yet the media carried that bucket for Hillary, they carried it for Joe Biden, they carried it for the Democratic Party of how horrible Donald Trump is. And yet, today, we see people saying, well, I don't like Trump because, well, he says mean things about people. Look what the fuck has been said about him for 8 years. And you do not expect someone to stand up for themselves? You've called him names. You've called him a treasonous piece of shit from the word go. And you expect the man to sit back and say, oh, hey, it's okay. Say what you want about me. I'm not going to say anything to defend myself. Are you fucking stupid? Go ahead. You sat in front of millions of people listening to talking heads say, you've committed treason. You're evil. Only trying to enrich yourself. You don't care anything about the American people. You're trying to make money off the presidency. You're a puppet for Putin. You're a puppet for Xi Jinping. You're a puppet for Kim Jong-un. All because he had open dialogue with world leaders. And then the liberals want to sit back, the Democrats want to sit back and say, oh, well, the rhetoric has to stop. You cannot talk like that. Yet your rhetoric has inspired a 20-year-old piece of shit that took an AR-15 on top of a building that killed someone at a rally and tried to kill President Donald John Trump. You say Trump incited the insurrection by his words, which clearly he did not. He said peacefully and patriotically protest, obey the law. We are the party of law and order. But yet every single day on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, Trump is the devil. And this whole bullshit about that day. The Secret Service is the premier, very esteemed organization. And then suddenly it forgets what it's supposed to do. Oh, but that's what they want you to think. If you look at everything, the lawfare against President Trump, the arrest of President Trump, the slanderous words against President Trump, calling him a traitor, he's treason, all these things for the last 10 years, then trying to remove his Secret Service protection detail because you don't like the man. All these things you have done to try to prevent him from going back into office, running for office. The Democrat Party is more responsible for that man picking up a rifle. I can't call him a man. That piece of shit that picked up a rifle and went after President Trump in Pennsylvania. You are more responsible for that person doing the actions they did that day than Charles Manson did. Think about that. Charles Manson convinced many people to commit crimes. All he had to do was open his mouth. And you pieces of shit that advocated for this over the last decade, when you knowingly lie, Adam Schiff, when you get on television and say, I've seen the evidence. Donald Trump is in bed with Putin. He will be impeached and removed. You're a lying piece of shit, Adam Schiff. %100. Go to the dictionary, look up piece of shit, you will see your picture right there. And it won't be just your picture. You'll have Raskins, you'll have Pelosi, you'll have Schumer, you'll have many of them. Because you guys lied. Sure, politicians, all before Donald Trump, embellished their accomplishments, embellished their wants and needs to run for office, to be elected, what they want to do. But you guys flat out lied. You walked into secure briefings, came out, told lies to the American people. Those lies have consequences. Those lies inspire radicals that pick up a gun, that killed people at a political rally. And you guys still want to sit there and say, tone down the political rhetoric, Trump, while still spewing your hatred and bullshit against everyone on the right. And not just people on the right. You have people like RFK Jr., who you declined Secret Service protection for. You have people like Tulsi Gabbard, that because they spoke out against you, was put on a watch list. Surveillance. 1984, George Orwell. If you haven't read the book or seen the movie, book is better. Movie hits most of the points. Read and watch. That is the country Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have brought us to. Which, if by miracle President Trump does get elected, which I don't believe it's a miracle, let's put it this way. It's a landslide. The last election was a landslide stolen from President Trump. This election is even more of a landslide. You can see it just in the numbers of his crowds. They don't get small. They don't need AI fakes. Kamala Harris to show people at an airplane when there was none. At least none to the level you portray. Stealing promises of President Trump. There will be no more tips being taxed, says Kamala. Pretty sure Donald Trump said that about 2 months ago at least. It's okay. It's a good policy. can't knock you for it. We shouldn't be taxed at all. A lot of people forget that is why, one of the big reasons why we fought the Revolutionary War. We were being taxed to death. Taxes on everything. Boy, if our founding fathers would be here today, how disgusted they would be at all of these politicians in Washington, D.C., and even more disgusted at us that we allowed it to happen. But that's a discussion for another day. So by miracle, the Democrats do not dispute the election of legally won by Donald Trump. By miracle, they allow President Trump to take the oath of office. We are still not out of the woods. We have, on the very low side of 10 million to 20 million illegal immigrants that are not all just someone coming here for a better life. You look at the numbers, you have large portions of military-aged men coming into the country that have been documented. That's the ones we know about. Not to mention the ones we don't know about. So let's play devil's advocate here. Let's just say it's 10 million, which we know it's at least 15, maybe even 20, but let's just go on 10 million. 10 million illegal immigrants. And let's go even further down the rabbit hole of giving the benefit of the doubt of only 1% of that 10 million. Only 1% are actual bad guys, criminals, drug dealers, rapists, pedophiles, murderers. Just 1%. Terrorists. All 1%. Out of 10 million. That's over 100,000 people. That's 100,000 people of 10 million that are criminals, rapists, drug dealers, terrorists, that are now inside our nation. And if you think for a second that Afghanistan didn't send some Taliban, that if you think ISIS didn't send some members, that if you think China, North Korea, Russia, the new axis of evil that people want to call them, did not send some of their bad people, or even better yet, possibly take advantage of the situation and infiltrate the United States with some of their soldiers, such as a large number of Chinese military-aged fighting men, Islamic military-aged fighting men that have been documented to enter the southern border. So we're going to keep it at a very conservative 1%. 100,000 very bad fucking guys in this country that are just waiting for a moment to attack. And you're like, oh, well, what can 100,000 people do? Oh. Let's look at 9/11. What did 19 people do in a single day on 9/11? 19 hijackers were told hijacked aircraft, crashed 2 airplanes into the World Trade Center, crashed an aircraft into Pennsylvania Field, killing thousands of people. Then we have the Islamists on the Christmas parade that jumped in a truck and ran over people. We have the riots of 2020 We have the school shootings of one person. So 100,000 people spread around this country is a very bad fucking idea of bad guys in here waiting for their moment. Now let's lose the conservative number. Just with the estimates of people coming in, that could be easily 30 or 40% of 10 million. You could have 3 or 4 million bad guys in this country, military forces waiting to pull a Red Dawn event. That's of 10 million. The number is closer to 20 by a lot of estimates. May not be accurate. A lot of people believe it's higher than 15. So if it is close to 20, that's a much different story. And you think they're going to go peacefully? They're going to go quietly? You think just because Donald Trump gets elected president, signs a piece of paper that those very conservative number of 100,000 very bad fucking guys are going to go, oh, you got me. I'm going to go jump on this train now. Here, handcuff me and take me away. You think the mentally ill criminals are going to do that? No. That crossroads is coming to bear. We have to get behind the GOP, not just the GOP. We have to get behind this candidate, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. We have to get behind the idea of America again. That's what it's all about. See, up until the last couple decades, the Republican and the Democrat Party were very much alike. We all had the same goals. We all had the same ideals. Just different opinions and different strategies to get to the same point. And that politician would win because they had a better argument and their ideal, their plan to get to that point. That's changed. You have, for largely, the Republican Party is still pretty center. They're a little right of center as a whole. But the Democrat Party has moved so far left. They blame the right for the same things that they're doing, projecting it. If you were to look at a line and you draw a circle and put a line right through the middle of it, and right in the middle you put the Republicans, a little bit to the right, the Democrats would be almost 98% as a whole to the left inside that circle. Now, the problem with that circle, of that ideology, is they're so far left, they're going Marxist, they're going communist. They accuse the far right of the Republican Party of doing that, spreading hate, division. And if you look at that circle and you follow it all the way around to the right, to the other opposite side of the line, you'll find the ideologies between the extreme right and the extreme left are no different. It's all the same thoughts, all the same actions. That's why it's always been important for the Democrat Party and the Republican Party to stay as neutral and as in the middle as possible for the sake of our nation, to be different than any other country on this rock. Democrats are coming full circle. And no, I don't mean Tim, your neighbor. I don't mean Sarah at the grocery store. Because most of those people still have common sense. Most of those people may not agree with the strategy or the politics of the right, but they have common sense and they know when something is evil, they know when something is wrong. But sadly, you have a lot of those people that just blindly vote party left or right because it's what their dad did, their granddad did, their great granddad did. You have to look through the lies of the media. You have to look at the bigger picture to see what's beyond the blinders. It's like looking at your window to the backyard with your shades half covered. You know, the blinds, you have all these little lines you're looking out. You can't see the full picture. That's what the media does to you. That's what the media does to me and everyone else. You have to open those blinds, take the blinders off, read through the lines of the story they're telling you. Why are they telling you this happened this way? Why are they telling you what they want you to hear? And then see whose actions backs up those words. If we look at every single thing the Democrat Party has said over the last decade, almost the last 8 years specifically, going after President Trump, they've lied about everything. Everything. Democrats, the media, none of them have apologized. None of them have looked you in the eye on TV at 6 o'clock and said, American public, I am sorry I misled you with false information. Not a single one of them. And you expect in this election in November 2024 that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they're the truth tellers when they're using artificial images to show fake crowd sizes. When Kamala announced that she was the nominee, people tried to look up Donald Trump in Google, and guess what? Kamala was there. Me personally, every video, it didn't matter if it was a political video or a farming video or a video about cats or dogs, did not matter what video I looked at. Every single ad for 2 weeks was Kamala Harris. Not one single Donald Trump ad. And when people searched Donald Trump, Kamala Harris would pop up. That was done on purpose, folks. That was done to create false hope. That was done to create false narratives. They were lies. They needed search results for Kamala. So when you search Trump, they automatically inserted Kamala so her name would come up. So they could say, hey, look, popularity's ensuing. It's going crazy. Look at all this. She's everywhere. And it was all a fucking lie. She didn't even get 1% of the vote when she ran against Joe Biden for the presidential nomination in 2020. She hasn't done a damn thing as vice president. She has shown how unintelligent she is on every single time she's been interviewed. Remember the interview about the southern border? She was named the czar of the southern border. And you had Lester Holt call her out and say, hey, well, you haven't been to the southern border. And she's like, well, I haven't been to Europe either. She can't be serious with you people. She can't be serious nominee for the president of the United States. So look through the blinders, people. Look through the lies. See whose actions have backed up their promises. And when you do that without blinders on, when you do that without political bias, there's only one clear choice, and that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump kept his promises in 2020. He will keep his promises, in 2016. He will keep his promises in 2024. We have to stand up and unite as American citizens against tyranny, against oppression. And you do that by casting your vote for Donald Trump in this election. Quickly, if you haven't followed us over on Twitter, you can follow us at Average Joe, the number 4 Prez, P-R-E-S. That's our official Twitter account. Let me see if I can show it here to you real quick. Yes, right here. This is our official Twitter page. You'll see some wonderful stories, like this one here of artificially created crowds. Oh, and this wonderful thing. Let's give this a listen.
Taxes on tips for service and hospitality work, and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
I'm also doing no tax on tips.
And eliminate taxes.
Isn't that just fucking wonderful? I am so excited. But yet, Kamala has said every policy that Donald Trump has done has been wrong. But now she's stealing a policy of Donald Trump? Oh, and let's not forget this. Actors needed at the Phoenix Convention Center. Help needed for an event. $15 an hour. Duties include protest activity and holding signs that are anti-Trump. Minorities welcome and needed. Looking to fill 500 spots. $15 an hour for paid protesters. Phoenix Craigslist. So does that sound like she has enthusiasm of the people? Does that sound to you at all like a grassroots movement? No. Open your eyes. Stop falling for lies from the left, from the right, from everyone. Think for yourself. Think which makes the most sense. And if you do that, and you take off those blinders, and you do some research for your own, you will easily find out there is one man. There is one clear choice for president. There is one clear choice for vice president, and that's Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. This is our first episode of Pollitt-tics. My name is Greg Pollitt. I'm your host. We will have more to come. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and the social media things to help spread your voice. In episodes to come, we'll have guests on. We'll have other topics. We covered a lot today. as our introductory intro podcast. So I hope you all had a great time, a wonderful time. Wake up, America. Let's do this. Let's get the rightful president elected again. Let's put more money back in your pockets, in my pocket. Let's make America great again. If you guys want to support the show as we just started it, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/politics. A couple of options there of how you can support the show. We'll have t-shirts and stuff coming eventually. Right now, jump over there. If you can afford anything, it's much appreciated. We thank you very much. God bless America. Until next time, Greg out.